Chapter 1. Hunter didn't feel like himself. A strange emotion came over him as he stood glued to the spot staring at Devon and Katie holding hands. Devon's hand passively clutching hers. Hunter's blue eyes glared into space, seeing and not seeing them. Everything appeared out of focus. Hunter's depthless eyes following their every move. The stark memories of her in his dreams after he had been kicked and beaten in a cave in Alaska gnawed at his insides. The only thing that kept him going were thoughts of seeing Katie in her wonderful smile. He just knew she would be waiting for him when he returned, and he would ask her to marry him, but instead, she had gone on with her life. Now he was thinking like a human, but he wasn't human anymore. He was a werewolf of the worst kind. The kind that could kill in cold blood. The kind that would kill his brother for one night to mate once more with the human he loved. As Katie came into focus, Hunter saw the image of himself with Katie, but it wasn't him, it was his twin brother Devon. He couldn't process the body language, they were close and their smiles were too truthful for Hunter. They were gazing at each other, as if they were in love. He sensed the undeniable attraction they had for each other. It was the same appeal he had for Katie when he first looked into her eyes. Devon was wearing the same look, and Hunter's mind told him that she was devoted to Devon, or that she was in love with him, and no longer did she have the same feelings for him that he had experienced so long ago. It felt like yesterday to Hunter, but it was indeed a long time ago, 2 years. It had been a harrowing 2 years to get home and discover that the person he wanted the most, the person he dreamed of each night as he lay nursing his wounds on a cold cave floor, was no longer his to dream of. He had been away too long, his mind was telling him. He could see a difference in Katie's face. She was wearing makeup. Her eyes hidden with dark mascara. When he first met her, her face was pale, except for the natural blush of her pink cheeks. Her hair was long then, and now it was short. She had worn a dress. This time she had on jeans. It wasn't because the season had changed when he first met her that she had worn a dress. Then it was spring, and now it was spring again. Hunter's senses were speaking to him. Devon and Katie had been intimate with each other in ways he had never experienced with her. Hunter could smell Katie's body as she moved in his direction to get a better look at him, as she dragged Devon with her, because she couldn't bear to release his hand. Knowing that Devon had been with Katie in the most intimate ways, Hunter pushed himself away from his mother, from Adrian's arms, and in a flash he had Devon by the shoulders, holding him off the floor. His arms were powerful. He could crush Devon if he wanted to. But where has this thought come from, he questioned. Jealousy is a human emotion, his mind told him. At first Devon thought this was a playful move, until Hunter tossed an unsuspecting and confused Devon across the room. Hunter stood over him, flashing his deadly teeth, his lips curling back growling. His steely blue eyes stalked their movements, his breathing rushing fast and hard into the air, his wide chest moving up and down, his nostrils flaring. Adrian was stunned, her eyes grew wide and she was shaking. She shouted at Hunter, "No. No. Don't do it. He's your brother." Hunter calmed at the voice of his mother, and he glanced down, tilting his head to one side at Devon, who appeared to be unconscious in the corner. "What's wrong with you, Hunter?" Katie said, her voice harsh. Her forehead furrowed, and her eyes glowing with disapproval as she rushed to Devon's side. Hunter didn't expect a cold reaction from Katie. He thought she would be there waiting for him, but instead she was angry and bewildered at his attack on Devon. Doesn't he know that Katie belongs to me? Hunter's mind was telling him. Doesn't she understand why I'm angry? Devon lay unresponsive in the corner of the foyer as Adrian knelt down to comfort him. Katie was standing over Devon. "Are you all right?" Katie said, her voice warm and caring. Hunter didn't know what to make of her concerns for Devon, but it was clear, because her bitterness was hurled at him, only him. Katie looked up at Hunter. "Why did you do that?" She placed Devon's head on her lap, after sitting in the corner, looking over to Adrian. Her eyes were begging Adrian to do something. Adrian hoped this was only a misunderstanding, and the situation would go no further. Still, Devon hadn't responded. His eyes were closed, but his heart was beating. Adrian checked his pulse and it was strong. Her heart rested inside her body once more. She took a long breath and closed her eyes. Adrian knew why Hunter had done what he had. And Drayton and Lysel knew as well, and that was why when Drayton and Lysel heard and saw the disturbance, they did nothing. Lysel said to Drayton, as they stood looking down from the second floor at the disruption Hunter had caused. "He'll get over it. They'll settle it and we'll have peace here once more. Leave them alone and they'll figure it out." Then Lysel hit Drayton on his left shoulder, and they walked away. Hunter paused a moment and settled himself, his breathing still ragged. He inspected his brother, then he looked at a mirror in the foyer and saw his image glaring back at him, his eyebrows making a deep V in his forehead. His eyes narrowed, peering at everyone in a threatening manner, everyone except his mother Adrian. With his mouth open, showing his deadly teeth, and seeing the fright in his mother's eyes, he stopped his threatening behavior. Hunter struggled with his instincts and nature. He was a different werewolf, so much so that he didn't recognize himself, and he didn't know what to do about it. It would take a lot to get over the idea that his brother had stolen his mate. The torment he had gone through had changed him into a fearless, possessive werewolf, and he couldn't turn back if he wanted to. It was as if he was a soldier who had returned from war. He had done too much and seen too much to ever be the same again. His only hope was to try to live with himself. He had gone down many roads, and they all had led him back home, and back to Katie. Hunter couldn't face another day without a touch of Katie's warm flesh. After nights of living in a cave and being shot and kicked and beaten, the thought of Katie had kept him whole and kept his humanity intact, but now this. His own brother had taken from him something more precious than his life, so his animalist instincts had kicked in, and he didn't know how to keep them at bay. The front door swung open with a bang, and there stood Wilder, breathing heavily, ready to attack. He had heard the commotion as he neared his ranch on his return home from the council meeting in Canada. Wilder watched as Devon struggled to sit up. Katie and Adrian stood watching at the door on hearing its explosive opening. Then Wilder spied Hunter and his body relaxed. Wilder's hand went to his mouth after seeing Hunter, his face showing quiet relief. "My son." He took one step in Hunter's direction, and then realized that it was Hunter who was the cause of Devon lying on the floor. "What is going on?" Wilder questioned, his voice firm. "Wilder," Adrian shouted and ran to him. "Your sons are—" "I know," Wilder said, his eyes wavering between Devon and Hunter. He walked to Hunter and hugged him, leaving Adrian to check on Devon. Wilder waved at Katie and Adrian to move away from Devon. Devon looked up at a stressed Katie and Adrian. "Leave us alone. We will sort this out," Wilder said to everyone. He handed Devon his hand, but Devon refused and stood on his own. Wilder turned to Hunter, his voice was warm when he said, "Are you hungry?" "No." "Are you tired?" "No," Hunter said, his penetrating glare on Devon, and Devon was looking up at Hunter with mixed feelings. His eyes asking why. Devon couldn't fathom what had gotten into Hunter, where he would use such brutality and force on him. Devon would never fight Hunter, but clearly this was not the same brother he had known 2 years ago. Could he have changed that much? They looked at each other, eye to eye. They were maternal twins. The only difference in them now was that Hunter's body was more muscular. They were the same height and their eyes were blue, but one had a look of peace and the other had a look of war. "I will not have my 2 sons in open battle, under my roof." "Then maybe one of us should leave," Hunter said. "Surely you two can come to some conclusion about the human," Wilder said. "It is about the girl." He knew. What else could cause 2 werewolf brothers to quarrel and attack each other? Hunter and Devon's eyes wavered back and forth at each other. "Father, her name is Katie," Devon said, looking over at Wilder as Wilder was standing in between his restless sons. "There can never be peace between us as long as he is with Katie," Hunter said. "She is my mate. I was with her first." His voice was low and husky. "As long as she agrees, we both can share her like father and our uncles did with mother," Devon said, his voice light and agreeable. Devon didn't understand Hunter's possessive nature. "I'm not like my father. I will not share the future mother of my pups," Hunter called out. His voice broke the silence in the house, and the sound of pups crying echoed downstairs. Everyone looked around and at each other. "That is the sound of our family and my pack, Hunter. It's time you understood that there are things far greater than all of us, and more important than when and who you mate with." Wilder's tone was commanding and impatient. Devon moved closer to Hunter. Hunter's hair stood tall on his arms. Wilder knew that this disagreement had to be settled, and settled soon. Wilder walked between two young werewolves who were ready to fight over one female. "Did you not hear what I said?" Wilder's eyes met Hunter's. "This can't go on. I need you to. It's a matter of life and death that we put this aside until later. We have more pressing and urgent problems than who fucked her first." Wilder's voice was forceful as he emphasized each word. Hunter raised an eyebrow at his father. "It's something that concerns all of us, and especially this pack. I don't give a fuck if the both of you impregnate her. What I care about is the survival of my family," Wilder said, his voice rising and falling, his tone distasteful. "But who dared call him on it? I have just come from a council meeting, and there appears to be a hostile response to werewolves and shifters of all kind in the human communities. There was so much I needed to explain to both of you as you were developing into yearlings, but that was taken away from me because of Bane kidnapping you and Adrian," Wilder said, looking at Hunter with the concern of a father. Hunter saw the worry in Wilder's eyes. He wanted to ask why didn't his father come for him, but he had too much respect. Hunter knew Wilder must have had a good reason. A concerned Devon looked around the room at Hunter and Wilder, then he questioned, "What is it, father?" Hunter's steely blue eyes focused on Wilder, but his mind was still on Katie and Devon. He stood, thinking of nothing of what Wilder had said about the council meeting. "Does it have anything to do with the large population of shifters coming into Samseville?" a troubled Devon asked. Devon had a right to be concerned. It was because of him that shifters had invaded their small town. Hunter knew nothing of what his father and Devon were talking about, and he didn't care. He had spent over a year in the wilds of Alaska, fighting to stay alive, and he just wanted to rest. All he wanted to hear was that Katie was his, and she had been waiting for him, longing for his return. "Precisely. They are coming here, because we are the only protection they have against the humans bent on destroying them. They have decimated wolves and werewolves in the forest in Alaska," Wilder added. "These humans know little of the other shifters. They are just concerned about werewolves, but the bear shifters think they will discover that they exist, and they will be the next target because they have to hibernate." That caught Hunter's attention. "What about Alaska?" Wilder turned to see Robert walking into the foyer. "We need to discuss this in the library." "Robert, I will need you too," Wilder said. A surprised Robert, on hearing Wilder, turned to Hunter. "That girl you brought here is very sick. She's not a werefemale. She's human." Wilder's blue eyes grew wide with alarm. "The human population outside of Samseville have declared war on shifters. Bringing her here is adding fuel to the fire. They already think we're kidnapping human women and raping and brainwashing them. Your grandmother spread that rumor when Adrian refused to go back with her. I hope you have a good explanation for this," Wilder said to Hunter. "She's only maybe 14 or 15. She has no family that I know of. What would you have me do? Leave her to die?" Wilder looked indifferent when Hunter raised the question. If it meant to protect his pack, then the answer would be clear to him as a leader. As a lone alpha wolf, Wilder had never been in love before, until he met Hunter's mother, Adrian. He had allowed his brothers to share her and marry her, and she had all their pups to ward off those out to destroy him and his family. He did this to ensure that the Samson name would flourish and there would be enough pups born in case of war. There was no doubt in Wilder's mind that war was coming,